afternoon. Hi, everybody. Yours truly, Christopher Russo. 22nd day of March, 2021. As you kick off a broadcast day and week here on a great Sirius XM 82. 888 Mad Dog 6, two-way sports talk. Telephone number, Eddie Erickson, Colin Schmelling, you and me now on this afternoon program. We get a weird day today because I can't recall ever having so many ball games. That's not obviously baseball. You always have some day games occasionally in that sport, but I can't recall postseason scenario where you have a slate of games on a weekday afternoon that's not like first day of the NCAA tournament Thursday and Friday, and here it is on a Monday. That is what we have, and we got a lot to do today, and it's good to have you with us here as we chat. Now, one sad note as we begin today, Elgin Baylor has passed away, legendary Laker, number 22, one of the all-time greats. Jumping jack forward, played the position like Julius did, only before Julius. Obviously, on those Laker teams that got knocked out an awful lot by Boston, scored 61 at the Boston Garden. The whole 9 yards. The great Baylor. That record was broken by Jordan. We'll get to that a little later on. I wanted to make sure you have that note as we begin the day here. Baylor, of course, longtime general manager of the Clippers, following a storied career. Unfortunately for him, he left right at the beginning of that Laker run in 71-72, when they won 33 in a row and won the NBA championship going away. He retired, sort of early in the year. Here comes Jimmy McMillan, and away we go. But the Lakers with Elgin Baylor, got there, played Minneapolis, and then he moved to L.A. with everybody else, and then West came, and there you have it. So we'll do some of that a little later in the course of our day. We'll pay correct homage to the great Baylor. Meanwhile, we have to spend a few minutes here on the NCAA tournament. We've got a lot to do here. Let's first start with an update. Gonzaga, off a bad start, has put themselves in a situation where they lead by 4 against Oklahoma, and they got off to a bad start in this game, but they have recovered. They played much better. They played better defense. They've scored, as they always will. And though they were down early in this game, 17-12, something along those lines, they seem to have gotten their stuff together, and they have played a little better basketball, and they have bottled up the Sooners an awful lot. Now it's 25-24. They have 9 minutes to go in this first half. So that's the first thing today. And then the other score of note is Iowa and Oregon, and I'm glad I can have this game at my disposal. A blowout for Oregon, up 10 at the half. They scored 56 in the first half. They won the second half essentially going away. Never really too much of a problem as they win the game. I think it was 95-80 against the Hawkeyes, and that is significant, and that's where we will lead with the program today. I don't want to hear Tori or anybody else now tell me another thing about the Big Ten, about this, that, and the other with that Big Ten conference. And it just goes to show you when it comes to the NCAA tournament, it is very, very difficult to figure out exactly how these teams are going to handle it and where these conference powers are going to do. Because if you look at the NCAA here through the first 3.5 days, it's been really all Pac-12 and nothing with the Big Ten. I mean, the Pac-12 has not lost a game yet. I mean, it is mind-boggling. Oregon's won. Oregon State's won a couple games. UCLA's won a couple games. USC's won a game. Colorado's won a game. They've all won a game, while the Big Ten has basically spit the bit big time and has been awful. Even when they win a game, the next day they fall apart. The Rutgers loss yesterday is one of the worst losses I've ever seen, as that team completely imploded in the last 8-9 minutes of that game yesterday against Houston. We'll get to that a little later. But Illinois completely outcoached and outplayed, had nothing in the tank, played awful against Illinois, Loyola of Chicago, knocked out Purdue and Ohio State, awful early in this tournament, when Ohio State did a terrible job with losing in overtime to Oral Roberts. Purdue, same deal for them against North Texas. Just a horrendous performance by those teams in that scenario. Wisconsin played a decent ball game, then lost yesterday. I mean, really just a lot of things you don't like. Iowa today was terrible. Michigan State to UCLA. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Just a very, very poor performance all the way around as far as the Big Ten Conference is concerned. And all I heard all year from all the experts, including our little buddy Mr. Torrey, is how great this Big Ten is. These teams are unstoppable. Iowa can score than anybody. Illinois, hot as hell, team that beat in the NCAA. Ohio State, Purdue, he's a great coach. Matt Painter, all I heard forever is how great a coach Matt Painter is. Oh, he's this, he's that. And he loses freaking in the first round to North Texas State, who then gets destroyed by Villanova, for crying out loud. A hurt Villanova team. Boy, I tell you, Matt Painter's good. Jay Wright's Red Auerbach. I mean, my goodness gracious, just an atrocious performance. And Rutgers' loss yesterday is so bad and is so pathetic. And I love Peichel, but that is as bad. You're going to be living with that one forever. That is as bad. They had a 9-point lead with 4 minutes to go against a Houston team that can't shoot and can't make free throws, and they still figured out a way to lose the game. I mean, that game was as bad as it gets for Rutgers. That was a horrendous loss from that standpoint. That would really bother me if I was Pike. I wouldn't be able to sleep for a month. Iowa today did not play defense. Their body language was awful in the second half. They had no juice whatsoever. A horrendous performance by Iowa today. The body language, Garza scored 36, but they were dead in the water in the second half. That was an atrocious performance by the Hawkeyes. Illinois yesterday, I mean, you can't play worse than Illinois did. That was as bad as it gets. They were outplayed right from the opening tip. They did absolutely nothing. They couldn't stop them on off defense. They turned the ball over left and right. Just a very, very, very bad performance by Iowa. By Illinois. So you hated that. Just terrible. I mean, really, for a conference that pounds its chest out about how good they are every year in and year out. I tell you, I'm never impressed with them anyway. When's the last time? I'm trying to think when was the last time they won a championship. Izzo hasn't won one forever. Michigan lost to Louisville in a championship game. That's been it for them. Illinois, we know. Purdue, we know. Never go to a Final Four. Iowa never go to a Final Four. Rutgers hasn't been in a tournament in 40 years. Wisconsin's done nothing. I mean, geez, all I hear, day after day, week after week, Big Ten basketball. Come on, stop, please. Awful. And look who they lost to. It wasn't like they lost to, Alcindor's Bruins. I mean, they lost to the Mean Green of North Texas. They lost to Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts, nice job last night, but still, it's Oral Roberts. I mean, Houston is nothing to write home about, despite their 2 seed. I mean, my God, Oregon didn't even play for 3 weeks and buried Iowa today by 100 points. I mean, my God. I mean, just a horrendous. Illinois, Loyola of Chicago. All right, they were badly seeded, but still, it's Loyola of Chicago, for crying out loud. Horrendous by the Big Ten. That's the first thing today. And the other side of the coin is, of course, what did the Pac-10 do in this tournament? I mean, it began on Thursday night in the first 4 with UCLA, with a wonderful performance by the Bruins, with their comeback against Michigan State, forcing Izzo to yell at his kids like you wouldn't believe. Then they turn around UCLA and they bury BYU, a team that was ridiculously seeded at 6, that got pats on the back last week because they were competitive against Gonzaga, yet they got blown out by they had lost. I don't know what the final was. I didn't watch that game, but they lost badly to UCLA. Even Colorado, the one team I wanted to lose out of the Pac-12, they made 1,000,000 threes and they buried Ewing's Georgetown Hoyas on Saturday at 12:15. They were up 25 at the half. I can't even kill USC killed Drake. I mean, they dominated Drake. Drake had won that Thursday night game against Wichita State. USC buried Drake. Oregon today, I mean, they toyed with Iowa. They didn't beat them. They toyed with them, for crying out loud. I mean, and how about Oregon State? Came out of nowhere. They beat Rick Barnes. That's nothing, that's nothing to go crazy about. It's Rick Barnes. But they turned around the next day and they destroyed Oklahoma State. And Cade Cunningham, for crying out loud. Enjoy the NBA and the Pistons, Cade. Out goes the Cowboys. I mean, when you get right down to it, the Pac-12, who I heard nothing about all year long, they haven't lost a game yet in this tournament. They haven't lost a game. USC won 1. UCLA's won 2. That's 3. Oregon State's won 2. That's 5. Colorado's won 1. That's 6. And Oregon's won 1, 7. I'm not even counting a walkover game. I mean, that's phenomenal by that team. Great. Absolutely tremendous. While the Big Ten can't, the Big Ten had Ohio State seeded 2, losing the first round. They had Purdue seeded 4, they lose in the first round. They had Illinois seeded 1. They go out just for it is almost a first round loss. I mean, Michigan State doesn't even make the main bracket. What a disaster. Horrendous by that conference. And this is the way the tournament has been here right out of the gate. It has been it's been essentially a very, very topsy-turvy, crazy NCAA. But I did expect a little bit more consistency out of that big conference. I mean, geez. I mean, and they got picked off. It was like they lost to good teams. I mean, North Texas State got outscored in the second half last night, 34-6. Late first half to Villanova, and they killed Ohio State. They killed Purdue in the overtime. Killed them, for crying out loud. My gosh. Just really, when you get right down to it, just a very, 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 very poor performance by that league. And what has been let's face it, it's been a crazy tournament here so far. There's been some juice in it. I know there's no fans. I get that, but the games have been they've been very competitive. The Texas Tech Arkansas game was very, very good. The Oral Roberts Florida game was very, very good. There's been a lot of good games. I mean, obviously the Rutgers collapse was interesting. The Iowa game today was pretty good. I mean, the games have been, when you get right down to it, have been very, very competitive here right out of the gate. But I had Illinois winning the whole damn thing, so I can cross them off my bracket. But if you think I was bad, how about Torrey, who had Illinois and Texas in the championship game? At least they got Alabama still alive. He had Texas, and I warn the idiot, don't take Shaka Smart and don't touch Texas. There is something about losing teams in tournament play, and that team never does a damn thing. I told him that, and he looked at me like I was cross-eyed. Hey, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't go by past years. Oh, yes, you can. Rick Barnes never does a thing, and Texas never does a thing. That combination never works. Tennessee, of course, and Texas. I mean, Texas lost somehow, some way to Abilene Christian. Who? What? Yes. Abilene Christian. Texas. Steve Torrey. And Torrey claims he's the expert. And the last time I looked on the little stat sheet, I led in the NCAA tournament after the first two rounds. Led in the first two rounds. Torrey's in last place, and he's supposedly the expert. He's supposedly the big expert. He didn't know his ass from his elbow, although he's betting like crazy, and he has won a couple of those, which makes me happy. Yesterday, of course, Oral Roberts, getting 8.5 against Larry Depp. But, boy, do I love the Big Ten. Because that conference likes to think of itself as some big deal. All right, you want to make a big deal about Maryland beating UConn? That's what you're excited about? If you're in the Big Ten right now, is that Maryland beat UConn? Tom Moore, my buddy Tommy, another horrendous loss for, a team that – no, I love Tom. I can't say that. But Maryland, of course, all right, I almost look at Maryland still as an ACC team. I don't even look at them as a Big Ten team anymore. But you get the idea. Just a very, 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 very rough scenario as far as the Big Ten is concerned. If Maryland's the only team that you can hang your hat on after the first 3 days or 4 days, as it turns out, because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If Maryland's your only team that you can hang your hat on in the Big Ten, you've been awful. And hey, who knows? The Pac-12 is flying. The Pac-12. Oh, baby. 16 after the hour, we take a timeout. We continue. We're on Mad Dog.